You know, Spirit gives me topics, and sometimes they come in really fun ways. This one today actually came last year, and I was on Twitter. Some of y'all are like, I don't mess with Twitter. But for those who know, you know, Twitter, and especially what they like to call Black Twitter, goes in. And I was in, you know, just kind of on there lurking as we do, watching what people say. It's really that. It's like a curated magazine that comes to you with all your favorite little clips and quotes and things like that. And there was a conversation that happened between the singer Jasmine Sullivan and Issa Rae, who produced Insecure, Awkward Black Girl, and what's it, Rapid, the new one that's called. And so Jasmine Sullivan said, boy, I would love to do, I'm paraphrasing because I can't actually repeat all the words that were said. She said, boy, I would love to do a collabo with Issa Rae. I'd love to have her do a video and me do some songs on it. And then she said, never mind, I'm crazy. And before 5 minutes could pass, Issa Rae got on there and she said, say less. And who said whoops? That's where I was. I was like, ooh, Issa Rae dissing Jasmine Sullivan on Twitter. Ooh, the tea, the popcorn, you know, all the things. And I felt bad for Jasmine Sullivan because I thought that was a sweet little aspiration. And then everybody got all excited. And they were like, oh, yes, I'm so excited. I'm so happy. I love this. And I was so confused. That's how you know you're getting older, wiser, in a different generation. I was like, what is happening? So, of course, I called Nia. I texted her. I said, Nia, what is say less? Is that a diss? You know, I'm still saying diss, so that's how you know how old I am. Is that a diss? Is she dissing her? And she was like, she started laughing. She said, no, Mama, that's a compliment. I said, it's a compliment. You know, like how we went from, you know, some of the words that we say that we flip it around. I'm not even going got some things cross my mind. And what it actually means is, I'm already with you. Say no more. I got you, I'm down, I'm in. Or as Lisa Nichols used to say, yes, yes, right? Yes, yes. And I was like, oh, what it means is you don't have to go through all of that. You don't have to qualify. You don't have to exaggerate. You don't have to beg me. I'm already in, or what they say, you had me at hello. And it was so exciting. I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. We're all excited because Issa Rae just said yes to Jasmine Sullivan. And so when Spirit gave me this title for the talk, I was like, oh, see, because this is how Spirit works. Just speak into the atmosphere. Just put it out there, right? And all those never mind, I'm crazy that you have, all the qualifying, well, if you know God, if you find a way, and if I, well, okay, if once I do this, and then after I go back, and if this person leaves the job, and then I wonder if that person like me, like I like them, all of that, just take it to the altar and leave it there. Just take it to the altar and leave it there. All those fears and flaws, you know, they have an expression, they say, Jesus, take the wheel. Give it to somebody else. Because that Spirit is already at work. Its answer is already yes. That's what say less is about. It's about, I already got you. I'm already on the same page as you were. Say what you had to say, mean it, claim it. Know that it's done, and let all the details be worked out, because for sure it was no contracts on Twitter. I don't know if this thing even happened, but what did happen was Issa Rae said yes. Jasmine put it out there, and Issa Rae was an easy, quick yes. And I'm not sure that that's what never mind, I'm crazy was thinking. And we also like to think that we could block our blessings. Right? But even when you go out there trembling, when you go out there on the ledge just a little bit, when you say, I'm willing to be willing, or, you know, the highest and best, right? This or something greater. You know, we got a lot of expressions that help us get there. That's good. All you got to do is show up, right? And let God handle all the rest of it. So this is what we do when we want to get help. Some of us feel that we have accomplished enlightenment, and what our job is now is to help others. Any people, helpers like me? You know who you are. Some of y'all got partners looking like you might want to raise that hand. We have a lot of advice for others, and if you are anywhere near me, you have certainly experienced that this is my opportunity for growing. And so Reverend E, who is my perpetual and always teacher, bought me a gift. It was a plaque, one of those that's in a frame with a quote on it. And I was, I opened it, I'm excited, like, okay, what is this message Reverend E has for me? JJ, just tell them what she said to me. Preach the gospel. Use words if necessary. It's a good thing to have somebody that know you. And I'm a little sensitive. I'm a Pisces. And I was like, I think that means shut up. But her heart, that's not what she meant. She had a gift for me. And she had always wanted me to go to Vipassana, which is a 10-day silent meditation retreat. I usually like to bring in the new year in silence. I hope we're going to do that together at the end of this year. I'm setting my intention as something I want us to do together. And it just was powerful to think there's another way to preach the gospel. I like to say you may be the only holy book someone ever reads. See, there is a difference between advice, right, and intuition, and insight, and knowing. See, knowing is different than advice. And let me tell you, just for a quick check, one is up here. That when you have that pipeline that goes, I thought it, so I should say it, interrupt. We want to interrupt that thing right there. It's I know it, so I should be it. Because this is what we think we're supposed to do with the partners, the children in our life. We're supposed to tell them, but often the things that we tell them, what are we trying to teach? We're trying to teach them to be afraid about lack and scarcity and fear, trying to teach them to judge themselves or judge others. And they have an expression, you'll know them by their fruit. Because this same thing is how we talk to ourselves. This is how we judge ourselves. This is how we always thinking about what somebody else is doing. This is how we're hard on ourselves and say, well, you need to be afraid, and you need to be thinking about it, and you need to do better, and you need to work harder, and you need to go this way. And that is overwhelming. And that is not the way that God works. So my invitation to you, as God and Reverend E are making an invitation to me, is say less. Be in agreement with the good that God is in that child. Be in agreement and in alignment with the good that God is in you, because the God in you speaks to the God in everyone else without words. You ever been someplace, I don't know if any of you have ever done like an eye-gazing activity or something like that, where you just sit with somebody, and I did a service at a festival, and I told them, just be quiet and see God in this person across from you. Okay, I just want you to turn to somebody right now. Just turn to them. Don't say a word. I'm going to invite you, if this is awkward, find somebody anyway. Don't leave nobody out. If somebody, come on, look, I'm right back here. I can see from here. Don't leave nobody out. And look for God. Just look for God. Now, for some of us, nobody's looked for God in us in a long time. Or maybe ever. So if you do it to the right person at the right time, you don't have to say anything. The tears will just come, because when we look For God, we will always find it. And guess what? That eye that you're looking with is the eye of God. So you start to feel that presence within you because you can't help it, because that's what oneness is. It's the idea that I can say absolutely nothing and heal with my presence, because what is being healed is my idea that there's any separation from the thing that is me and the thing that is you. The thing that's watching out for me, that got me to where I am when I was making all those mistakes I'm telling you not to make, because there's only one of us. Ask me how I know to tell you to be afraid of that, because I was afraid of that. But guess what? I got through. And how did I get through? It's not because I held on tight to my fear. It's because something greater than my fear got me through. They like to say, if you want a different way to say it, you could just say, don't talk about it, be about it. Don't talk about it, be about it. Don't talk about it, be about it. That role model, that example, you want peace in your relationship, be peace. Oh, that's harder. Wait a minute. All right? You want trust, be trustworthy. You want love, be loving. Right? You want prosperity, be generous. It's a way that this thing works. Right? There's a prayer called the third step prayer that I love. It was given to me in a similar fashion as the plaque. And it said, God, I offer myself to you to build and do with me as you will. Relieve me of the bondage of self so that I may better do your will. Take away my difficulties, guess what? So that victory over them may bear witness to those that I would help of your power, your love, and your way of life. May I do your will always. Woo! That one wears me out. It wears me out. But here is the real just mind-blowing thing. I was taught the prayer. I started doing it for myself. I was like, okay, let me turn my will over. You got me. I got it. Boom. But then when I had conflict with someone, the same person who gave me the prayer told me, okay, now put their name in it. God, I offer Joe, name fictional, God, I offer Joe to you to build and do with him as you will. Ooh, because we want to be God in somebody's life rather than introduce, connect, recognize that God is working it out for them. So when I say, I'm going to turn my will over to you, this is great. I'm going to turn my life over to you, this is great. But when I say, I'm going to turn this thing that I perceive with fear, this thing that I perceive with judgment, when I say, I'm going to pray for that person to have a relationship with you, I'm going to give it back to God, give them back to God, and really we're not giving anything, right? We're just waking up. We're just waking up to the reality of the situation, which is we are not their higher power, right? We are not their higher power. Now, if you get the call to be used to show up in someone's life, you understand that still small voice has an invitation for them. Let me just give you a hint. Invitation does not look like domination. It does not look like you better listen to me. Now, I hope my children don't see this video because they'll be like, is that right, preacher? But fortunately, we don't have to be perfect to practice. So there's another opportunity for saying less in our lives, and this one I find to be particularly sweet. It's to go in to the place where you feel most connected to the divine source. To go in to a place where you feel the presence of God. And I'm going to tell you that that place often is very quiet. You know, I love God in the noise. Me and God, we dance, we do the music, we do the temptation walk. That's from my dad. So this I have to celebrate that last month and next month, both of my parents have really big birthdays. And so shout out to mom and dad and the great love that you poured into my life. But in this quiet, sometimes it's meditation. We had a beautiful meditation today. And sometimes there's a moment there. They say praying is talking to God and meditation is listening, right? And sometimes there's this quickening that happens when you go into the stillness. Sometimes I do guided meditation. And then there's a pause, and there's a way I take it in. I have one of my favorite meditations is on Insight Timer, and the message is, let it be easy. Because, you know, we like to complicate some things sometimes. We got a whole road, pathway, map. It's folded like the old triptychs. We got to pull it out like this and figure out the possible pathways. Ooh, what is with the GPS that gives me 4 choices of how I could go and says similar route ETA? I'm like, woo, pecking, trying to see. Let it be easy. It's one of my favorite meditations, and increasingly we're becoming aware that in the silence we can pay attention to our body and the messages that it's giving us. We do not have to experience disease in our body. It's a dis-ease. And it's talking to you. It's talking to you while you're eating. It's talking to you while you're drinking. It's talking to you when you haven't rested long enough. Some of us believe we cannot rest. No one can do it but us. All of it. This is a lie. I tell people all the time, don't wait until you're in the hospital to figure out they can do it without you. You can be sat down so that it can be shown to you that they can do it without you. But let's not take that pathway. Let's go into the quiet and have our body, have our mind, have our consciousness say to us, you're doing too much. Somebody ought to tell you, let it be you. It's time to rest. I used to say, I work hard, I play hard. Y'all know me, I'm a social person. But I had to finally get to that age where I was like, I work hard, I play hard, I rest hard. Yesterday I had a to-do list that was on jam. I had this to do and I had this to do, and I set up a whole bargain with myself. If I do this and this and this and this, then I can have this. And I could feel myself, the anxiousness. I could feel myself, the anxiety I was creating for myself with this list. And fortunately, the minister is learning to pray. And I sat there and I said, okay, Spirit, help. Say less. Just help. See, I love this philosophy and dominion and speak your word, but sometimes help. I don't have it all outlined. I don't have the plan together. I haven't gotten the mental equivalent quite down. I just know that at this moment, this ain't how I want to feel. So help. And then I did that quiet thing to listen. Because if you believe in this philosophy, when you say something, something is supposed to happen. That's why it's called the science of the mind. Because when you speak your word into the atmosphere, it's not just for fun. You speak your word into the atmosphere so it can produce that which you declare. So I said, help, and God said, I swear, take a nap. And I was like, what? You know, God and I have interesting conversations. Spirit, I'll be like, wait a minute. I got a lot to do. One of my favorite books is called The Big Leap. And it talks a lot about moving from your zone of incompetence to competence to excellence to genius. And a lot of moving through those zones is recognizing there's stuff you need to stop doing, right? You're not that good at it. And you're still doing it because you think no one else can do it, but there's other people who can do it better than you, so stop doing it. And then there's this thing that is your zone of excellence, which you're really good at. Everyone tells you that you're really good at it. It gets you money and prestige, but it is not what God put you here to do. That is your zone of genius. You can feel it if you stop and pay attention to your life. You know it. It's that thing they say that you could do for free, right? You don't have to do it for free, by the way, let me tell you. But it's what it feels like. And so as I'm learning to let go of all my ideas of what it is that I have to do, I said help, Spirit said take a nap, I got this. Say less. You giving me a whole bunch of, I got to do, Spirit, can you, I got a to-do list for God. And by the time I got up from my nap, half of it was done and unimportant. It's not your doing. It's not your doing that's getting it done. It's your being. It's not your doing that's getting it done. If you don't have time to do it all, you're probably needing to cross some things off that list. Don't do all of that. That's the secret. Take the list and cross out a lot of it. It can be done without you. You can be good without doing all of that. You are already enough. You don't have to do any of it. You don't have to do any of it to be enough. Well, I mean, I got to do the dishes, though. That's on here. But what Kawaza and I were talking about earlier is let it be a get to, not a have to. Do you understand? Because if you get that nap, the dishes don't look so hard. Do you understand? You're like, oh, okay, I got a little energy. Let me just bust this out so my house can be clean and I can be comfortable, right? Let me go ahead and, send this card. I know some folks that have experienced some loss, right? I can be generous with my time. I can be patient with the people I love. There's something else that happens when you do less. So say less to everyone about all that you have to do. So I'm going to just tell you in the meditation about let it be easy, there's this thing where it says wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes and let a smile curve your lips. So that has become my little trigger for how I remember that it's easier than I think. It's easier than I think, especially if I let it go. So when I'm starting to feel that little anxiety and thing, I go, okay, let me smile. It's hard to be really depressed when you smile. I mean, depression is a real thing. I don't mean to minimize it. And at the same time, sometimes there's these little rays of light that happen. So I just wiggle my fingers and wiggle my toes and let a smile curve my lips. And that is one of the ways that I say less. All of us have a place. My place is the water. When I'm in the water, on the water, near the water, looking at the water, I see the presence of God. And so I invited JJ, who really, if you follow him and some of his work, his photography, his videography, you get that sense that he might see God in some different places. And so I invited him to share with us a video testimonial. And so JJ, if you come bring your word, I appreciate that. He's got a video for us.
As a full-time filmmaker and photographer, I often tap into nature to nourish me and to regenerate. I spend most of my days answering emails, sending proposals, managing productions, and traveling around the country to film content. But the second I get back to the Bay, I strap on my hiking boots, lace them things up so I can sit in the silence and commune with nature. Now, why do I do it? It's an instant soul cleanser for me. I imagine what it's like to be a giant so grand. But then I remember I'm made from the same material. I'm formed from the same plan. And then there's this feeling of being so small, looking up, following these massive trunks to the heavens. Whatever my problems are in that moment, just melt away. I speak to the trees and they tell me to slow down, to breathe, and lean into being me. And in this silence, the gift that is given to me by nature, I rejoice because the peace that follows is irreplaceable. When I leave the trees, the immediate experience might fade away slowly, but a piece of that is with me forever. So for me, it's like this never-ending well of inspiration that I tap into for healing and my art. Sitting there, watching the Milky Way crawl across the Yosemite sky is enough to make anyone a believer, in my opinion. In stillness, nature speaks beyond volumes and beyond my comprehension. But you know what? For the rest of my life, I'm gonna keep trying to understand those messages. Because if I was certain about one thing, I know those messages are coming from God. And the more I sit with the stillness, the clearer they come through. So, thank you, nature. I love you for all that you do for me and my peoples. I guess if I was gonna say one thing, I just want to see more people of color and Black folks out there, right? Really out there. I rarely see my people who look like me when I'm on the trail. So lately, I've been tapping into different communities and I found some really cool groups putting on some beautiful melanated outings. I'm going to put links to them in the description of this video. Thank you so much, Reverend Dereca, for your beautiful wisdom and a chance to share my testimony. Peace to all, and sending a lot of love.
Powerful community.
Yes.
JJ's work is very inspiring, whether it's about the warriors or it's just a picture of the lake at night. There's been so many times where I feel blessed by his take on the world. That's who we are, East Bay. A community that uplifts and celebrates each other, that is blessed by the testimony of how God shows up in its infinite diversity. Yes. Right? Each person here has a story because each person here, what did we say, is an individualization of God. And so I just want to remind you, you don't have to bargain. You don't have to dictate. You don't have to pressure. You don't have to judge people. And even if you do all of that, don't judge yourself. Spirit doesn't require perfection from us. Spirit doesn't require us to have it all together, get it all right. Say less. Because Spirit has already said yes. Yes. Already said yes. So the good news is, all we have to do is go to God. And so I invite you to turn within right now and go to God with me.